Hi, everybody. This is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and these are your horoscopes for the month of February 2019. This is the Sun and Rising Sign horoscope for Capricorns. So let's go ahead and take a look. Put your chart up on the screen so you can see it, and we'll dive in. So arguably the biggest and most important transits of the month come right about the beginning, February 2nd and 3rd, and around the 12th and 13th. The planet Mars in your 4th house is going to be making a square to Pluto in your 1st house and home sign of Capricorn. And then on the 12th and 13th, Mars will conjoin Uranus in Aries in your 4th house. Let's talk about these two transits first, since they are definitely the defining transits of the month. Mars, obviously the god of war, has a lot to do with its base action is to cut, to separate, to divide, as well as to penetrate, to confront, to be an aggressor, but also a starter. You can associate Mars with courage and bravery. So the planet Mars also associated generally with action and what motivates action. So there's a lot of action in the month of February because Mars is sort of leading the charge. Mars is in your 4th house, which is the house of home, family, property, parents, roots, and it is at the very beginning of the month making an immediate square from that house to Pluto in your 1st house. Now, Pluto's been in your 1st house for a very long time, so it's not necessarily the newest thing in the world to talk about Pluto in the 1st house of a Capricorn sun or rising. But the combined effect of Pluto, the lord of Hades, the lord of death and rebirth, the planet that is associated with the underworld, coming into contact with Mars, god of war, is the two key words that I've been using have been confrontation and catharsis. So confrontation and catharsis, it's very personal. 1st house is a house that's very personal. And it may relate to your health, your body, your sense of self, your sense of life direction. Sometimes 1st house transits announce new beginnings, but it's relative to things happening in the 4th house, which would be home, family, parents, your home and hearth. So there are some challenges and changes happening this month that stem from the roots of your chart, and they are also confronting you in a very personal way. So that's the 1st transit. February 2nd, it perfects. Now, when you look at the transit February 12th and 13th, what you're going to see around that time is Mars getting together in a conjunction with Uranus. And that transit is also action-oriented and really continues on the exact same themes. However, it adds the theme of rebellion, suddenness, unexpected dramatic events, more of the confrontational energy of Mars, more of the assertiveness of Mars, more of the take action of Mars. Mars often, when it conjoins with Uranus, becomes a little erratic and can you have to be careful of swinging for the fences and missing altogether, so to speak. Mars and Uranus in the 4th house are about challenging paradigms at the root of your being. So again, getting right down into the area of home, family, property, parents, and so forth. So it's a moment of defiance, rebellion, kind of revolution, and maybe even innovation. But it's very charged, it's very direct, and it's a very assertive moment. So those two moments, the biggest of the month, hands down. Now we go back and there's a few others that are going to be equally important. For example, you've got a lot of action in the 2nd house this month. A new moon planting a seed in the 2nd house of finances, money, income, assets, resources, expenditures. So a new moon there suggests a strong developmental theme as the next lunar cycle goes on relative to the money and finances, the house of money and finances. The ruler, of course, is Saturn. Saturn is the ruler of Aquarius. So Saturn is the host of the new moon. It's in your first house. And throughout the month, you've got Venus in the first house, which is generally a good thing. Venus brings good fortune. Venus brings grace and beauty and harmony. Sometimes the importance of women or the goddess or feminine themes become very strong. Then when you look at what Venus is doing during the month, that's when you get some real insight. Venus is going to go through 2 transits, one to Saturn in your ruling planet and home sign of Capricorn. And this has a moment of deciding upon something, agreeing to something, becoming more serious or committed to something, or defining your boundaries and your likes and dislikes in a stronger way. It also represents a moment of elder feminine wisdom, elder earthly wisdom. That's happening on February 18th. Not long after that, on February 22nd, Venus in Capricorn is going to conjoin Pluto. And that is a moment of, again, catharsis, depth, intensity. And it's a very personal moment of transformation. Sometimes it's as simple as style, wardrobe, appearance, issues about ego and empowerment, vanity and superficiality versus authentic expression of who you are or what makes you beautiful. Venus-Pluto can also be about depth and death and rebirth in all different kinds of important relationships. These are very personal transits when they're in your first house. They often come through in terms of how you're expressing yourself to others, or how you're, especially with Venus, how you're showing up in your relationships right now, and changes that you may be called to make that have to do with modification of your behavior or your approach to others. So Venus-Saturn, Venus-Pluto between the 18th and 22nd, powerful transits for Venus in your first house in Capricorn. Don't be surprised also if you attract others to you quite easily this month with Venus in your first house, or if there's just a general aura of social grace and charm and benefits that come through positive connections with other people. Although with Saturn and Pluto, there might be some deeper work around those themes as well. Okay, so on the 18th, interestingly enough, we also have Chiron entering Aries and moving into your 4th house of home and family, where it will stay for the better part of the next decade. So the wounded healer, a planet of wisdom, learning, growth, but also pain and woundedness. Planet moving into the 4th house of home, family, property, and roots. So you've been doing a lot of work in this area of your life for the past 7 to 8 years as Uranus has been moving through this area of your chart. However, Chiron sweeping through is less about the destabilizing and the paradigm change of Uranus in the 4th house, and more about the gathering of wisdom and the dressing of wounds. So you think about that energy now entering your 4th house of home and family to stay for again, say all the way until I think it was about 2029 or so. So only one other transit that I want to mention, and that is the entrance of Mars into Taurus on February 14th into the 15th. It'll just be entering your 5th house, and that is a house that is related to creativity and pleasure and joy and happiness. It's also related to pregnancy and children. So Mars entering that house may bring some difficult themes because Mars is going to be in its detriment in Taurus for the next 40 plus days. Mars in the 5th house can bring different kinds of issues around pleasure, joy, fun, children, things that should be very light. Mars might bring a little bit more heaviness to. Or another way of putting it is that the 5th house used to be called the house of good fortune, and it is generally understood by ancient astrologers to be a place that brings the good things in life that you are allotted, but not necessarily intending to get or receive the good things. So Mars going through the 5th house may bring good things through Mars-like themes of confrontation, of desire and aggression, and confrontation and courage, and good things may come through Mars, in other words. So a couple of ways of thinking about Mars. That's an important transit. It's switching signs out of your 4th house. So it moving through the house of creativity and joy for the next 40 plus days. So that's what I've got for you this month. A lot of action from Mars, Pluto, and Uranus. Uranus is also culminating in your 4th house this month. We'll be changing signs into Taurus next. So we'll be talking about that next month for sure. All right, that's what I've got for you. I hope that you have a very beautiful month of February. I'd love to hear from you. Please leave your comments on the YouTube feed, or feel free to email me any stories that you have at nightlightastrology@gmail.com. Okay, thanks so much. Take care. Bye.